Republicans who have expressed resistance to passing the George Floyd bill have argued that there's no law that would have prevented the deadly beating of Tyre Nichols. Does the White House agree with that?
So look, I'll say this. When it comes to this issue, the police reform, and dealing with an issue that's certainly affecting many communities, the brown and black communities specifically, and asking would the George Floyd Injustice and Policing Act have changed anything? We believe it would have strengthened accountability measures, which we think is important for federal officers at the state and local level. We think that's important. It would give the Department of Justice expanded powers to go after departments that have patterns of or practices of excessive force, bias policing, and other unconstitutional practices. It would require the Department of Justice to establish accreditation standards for law enforcement agencies. It would require officers to complete training on racial profiling, implicit bias, and the duty to intervene when another officer uses excessive force. The president repeatedly calls for Congress to pass the George Floyd Act. Even leading law enforcement organizations supported the reform as well. And when they could not take action or would not act, the president acted and put forth an executive action. And as I stated before, that executive action was supported by families who have been affected, who lost loved ones to police brutality, and it was supported even by law enforcement. It was supported by civil rights organizations as well. Look, this is a first step. I was explaining that to Peter. George Floyd Injustice Policing Act, while yes, it will start the process and hopefully dealing with a real systemic issue, a systemic problem, it is also one of the ways that we can start dealing with that.
One other question. Activists have identified the issue of traffic stops as a potential area of policy focus. Does the White House see that as a potential area where there could be bipartisan support or even through executive order?
Again, I don't want to get into specific on getting bipartisan support for any piece of provision or policy that would be in the legislation. I'm going to allow the president to have his conversation with the Congressional Black Caucus, see how that goes, and continue to talk to Congress about acting and making sure that we deal with this issue.